All right, we can start
Okay,
whenever
so
you're ready.
is, did Martisa,
Martisa is having an internet problem, she told me so.
okay, so then she'll do the web, the Facebook. We had a conversation about that. So she'll start the Facebook when she gets on, or you can do that.
I do not have the code.
Okay, all right.
When
So
she'll start, yeah.
when you say we're recording, does that mean everybody can see us now?
When a practice session, no. When you tell me we're ready to go, we'll go.
Okay, Andrea, are we ready?
I think so.
Okay, Haley Gaddish is here.
Yeah, well,
Okay.
All right,
yeah, we don't have David or Mona on,
I don't see him.
but neither am I.
And Commander, if I don't respond to you, that means I didn't understand what you said, because I still am struggling with my ears not being cooperative tonight, okay? So bear with me if I act stupid, okay?
Oh, no worries. We'll work through it together. It's okay.
All right,
We have to deal with this technology. We have to really depend on this to move us forward, right?
okay, thank you. Okay, Mr. Mensa, do you want to, oh, Andrea, did you have something?
Yeah, really quick, did you want me to take notes since David's not on here yet?
Yes, do you mind?
No, I can do that.
Okay, cool. All right then, Mr. Mensa, I think we're ready to hit it.
Okay.
The June 1st, 2022 meeting of the Southwest Community Policing Council is called to order at 6:01 p.m. The meeting is recorded for posting on the website. The meeting notes from the May 4th, 2022 meeting and the meeting plan for the June 1st, 2022 meeting were approved by the council at the May 23rd, 2022 planning session. They will be added to the website as required by the O-20-27 Community Policing Council Ordinance, as well as the procedures that the council voted in at the planning session, which will govern how we proceed and the procedures we will follow to be in compliance with the Community Policing Council Ordinance. We welcome everyone that has joined the Southwest CPC to discuss regaining trust between neighbors, regaining confidence in the Albuquerque Police Department, and how we work together to create an environment of constitutional community-oriented policing. The mission of the council is to meet the duties and responsibilities as outlined in the Community Policing Ordinance. Section 9-4-6-6 directs the CPC to facilitate communication, collaboration, consensus building, and cooperation between the Albuquerque Police Department and the community. The council requests everyone in attendance this evening to consider the effect of moving this council's meeting start time to 6:30 p.m. Please put in the chat box your opinion of moving the start time 30 minutes later. Thank you for sharing your thoughts, because this is a meeting to bring the community participants together. If we aren't meeting at the best time for the most, we defeat our purpose. So let's start with an introduction of the members that we have in our Community Policing Council now. I'm Wanda Harrison. I was born in Albuquerque, raised on a family working dairy farm in the far south, South Valley. I graduated from Rio Grande High School and promptly left New Mexico. I worked for the Federal Court Clerk's Office of the Southern District of Ohio, Eastern Division at Columbus for 31 years before returning to New Mexico in November 2016. My personal goal is to improve civility in the Southwest Area Command of Albuquerque. Andrea?
Hi, everybody. My name is Andrea Lester Young, and I was born in El Paso, Texas, lived there for about 1 year, and then I've been in Albuquerque, New Mexico for 46 years. I am married, been with my husband for almost 25 years. We have a 21-year-old daughter who goes to New Mexico State University. I have a master's degree in management, and I own a medical spa with my mom. It's a family-run business, and I've been on the council, I think now for about 1.5 years. And I'm really looking forward to regenerating the Southwest CPC and getting us back on track.
Welcome to our Southwest Area Commander, Rene Barraza. Commander Barraza, Please tell our community participants a bit about yourself and introduce the officers that have joined us for the discussion tonight so that they may tell us a bit about themselves.
Of course, yes. Thank you so much, Wanda. I've been with the police department for a little over 22 years. I was assigned as the interim commander for the Southwest Air Command back in December of 2021. Part of my career with the police department is field services. I worked in the traffic division. I worked in the DWI division. And then when I received a promotion to sergeant, I really had, it really inspired me to be a trainer and a leader in this department. And I joined the FT, really the field training and evaluation program from 2006 up until my appointment to the Southwest Area Command. So I really enjoyed my time making a difference with the police department, being a trainer. I trained a lot of sergeants that were going to be sergeants. I trained a lot of newly promoted lieutenants that were going to be lieutenants. So that's part of my career as far as serving the community. I've lived here all my life, well, the majority of my life. But I've been very proud to serve this community for a little over 22 years. Today I brought Gabriel Candelaria. He is one of my PRT officers for the Southwest Area Command. And then I brought Officer Martin Garcia. He's actually a bike patrol officer assigned to the Southwest Area Command. And I also brought Officer Dion Bethea, who's also a bike patrol officer. Dion and Martin both recently came to the Southwest, I think back in February, but Gabriel Candelaria has been in the Southwest for a long time, so we depend a lot on his knowledge, a lot of his experience in the Southwest. And I can tell you, I've gotten a lot of support from not only the officers, but the community members in the Southwest. So I really look forward to working with this panel to move the Southwest CPC in the right direction. And Gabriel, at this time, would you like to introduce yourself?
Absolutely. Hello, I'm Officer Gabriel Candelaria. Sorry for the glare. I'm sitting in front of a window. My kids are running around, so it might be a little noisy. But I've been with the Southwest PRT team for just a little over 3 years now. And anything you guys need from me, I'm an open book. You're more than welcome to have my phone numbers. But I do my best to support the Southwest PRT team in terms of our goals for enforcement as well as our goals for engagement. And yeah, I'm here for you guys. Any questions you have? I've been here a little bit over 3.5 years. I'm well familiar with a lot of the people that we deal with on a routine basis, our problem areas, repeat offenders, and everything else. Anything you need from me. Thank you guys for having me. It's an honor.
Martin?
Hi, I'm Officer Garcia. Like Commander said, I'm pretty new to the Southwest months now, but it's been great so far. I grew up in the Southwest, so it's kind of home to me. So I'm more personable and stuff. So look forward to working, picking the brains of both Commander, Sergeant Lujan, and Gabe, being able to help out the area and just make it a better place for everybody, the community. Thanks for having me.
And Dion, you're next, buddy.
Hello.
Hi, oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, you can go ahead.
No, go ahead, honey. Sorry.
No worries. So I'm Officer Dion Bethea. Just kind of short and sweet. My dad is military, so we moved around quite a bit. I was born in Florida, went to the University of Washington, got an engineering degree from there. So I did engineering for quite a few years before I became a police officer. Before I was in the Southwest, I was working in the Southeast, part of Albuquerque. Went to the police academy with Officer Garcia. So him and I are not only friends, but we're partners as well. We have a great squad and a great chain of command in the Southwest. So of course, work with Officer Garcia, Officer Candelaria, our Sergeant Jeremy Lujan, He's actually, I believe he's on vacation. Of course, Commander Barraza. So it's been a big blessing. It's been awesome. We've been able to arrest some offenders. We've really just kind of really being proactive. So myself and Officer Garcia are bikes, but we do a lot of the PRT team responsibilities. So we're constantly hitting problem target areas, and Officer Garcia and myself are actually in the middle of getting a hold of Alamosa Community Center. So hopefully later on this summer, we can put on like a community meeting, but we would like to do it in person for our business coalition that we're creating. So again, Officer Dion, Bethea, if you guys have any questions, you guys feel free to either contact us. We can drop our phone numbers in the chat or our emails as well. So.
Andrea?
Yes, ma'am. Hi, Haley. It's a Haley, right? Can you please tell us a little bit about yourself and the method of analysis you use to determine the number of PRT officers needed in the Southwest Area Command?
Sure. So my name's Haley Kadish. I've been working for the city for almost 4 years now. Actually, next week will be my 4-year anniversary. I work in the office of the CFO. I'm the performance and innovation officer for the city. And what we do is we function as sort of an internal consulting organization within the city. So we work in a lot of different departments in an effort to try to save money and not spend a lot of money on consultants. And so we do a lot of different projects throughout the city. APD had reached out to us to do a staffing analysis to assist them with a requirement in one of the CASA paragraphs. And it actually happens to be something that I used to do before joining the city. I was a local government management consultant for 5 years, and I worked for an organization. We traveled around the country and did this type of staffing analysis for a lot of different public safety agencies, police and fire. And so that's really why APD decided to use an internal resource. We're not necessarily internal to APD, but definitely happy to help. So I thought I would share a couple slides, if you don't mind. Am I able to share my screen?
Give me a second.
All right. And I'm happy to share as much or as little. So if I am rambling on and this is way too much detail, I'm a huge nerd about this stuff. So I will talk about this a long time if you don't tell me not to. So let's see.
Well, of course, we're primarily interested in the Southwest.
Definitely. And I'm planning to share just the staffing assessment that we did, because we did it by area command. So I'll just share the data from the Southwest. And, oh, too many windows open. I'm using a PDF. I shared the wrong thing. Let me see. Here we go. Let me try again. All right. Does that look right? Does it say the PRT staffing assessment?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So I thought I would just, I talked a little bit already about sort of why APD had reached out to our team to do this work. But specifically, we were trying to help with a recommendation from the monitoring team to ensure that PRT activities expanded as needed, fielding adequate numbers of specifically trained officers were guided by specific tangible and quantitative goals and objectives. So that was really what we set out to do. As sort of a reminder, so the area command has one proactive response team. So it's 1 sergeant and 5 officers, and they work Monday through Thursday, 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. And what we did as a team, so in addition to all of our analysis, we also did ride-alongs and met with PRTs. So the focus areas that we saw in our ride-alongs were really Central Avenue and Coors Boulevard, and then Iliff and Coors intersections. And we also saw a lot of business checks and kind of building relationships with businesses. We saw some traffic stops, and we also heard a lot about the APD Lowrider program, which I'm sure you all know about and talk about. So in terms of when you're thinking about community policing staffing, it's important to start out with sort of thinking about the approach to community policing that an organization takes. So typically you can exist kind of on a spectrum. So there's a specialized approach, right? So that would mean that I have a specialized unit and they do all of my community policing for the entire community. The other end of the spectrum would be generalized. So that means all officers are trained to engage in community policing activities, and there's not a specialized unit. It's the responsibility shared across all officers. What I found is that Albuquerque has what I would call a hybrid. So we do have a specialized unit. We have the PRTs, but there is also an expectation that officers are engaging in community policing in a daily basis, all field officers, not just the PRTs. So that's kind of important to note. There's also a couple typical approaches that we in the professional realm of doing these staffing studies would use. What gets interesting though is that there really isn't a benchmark staffing approach for community policing. So typically we might look at per capita, there might be a minimum staffing level that we're trying to meet, authorized level. So that could be coming from like a political authorizing body, appropriating body. And then there's workload based. So for this project, what we found was that APD had initially, when the PRTs were first created, taken kind of a geographic workload based approach. And you see that in the Southwest with the way that the teams were really focused on those two major intersections. And that's really where the PRTs started. There's also another approach that we explored, and we looked at both of these different approaches from a staffing level standpoint. Another approach is a performance objective based approach. So in that you would adopt a performance objective. And for example, it could be how much time do you want officers available to engage in community policing? It's like picking a service level that you would get from your officers. And then you would staff to meet that performance objective. And so in talking with the monitoring team and in doing all of our analysis, we actually decided to recommend a performance objective based approach. And that's so that you're not saturating a specific geographic area and limiting a team or community policing activities to a specific area. And it really allows officers to move around within their area command, but still being adequately staffed. So I thought I would walk you through how we went about that performance objective based approach. And let me know here if I'm getting too far into the weeds on these, but there were basically 4 steps in this model. So first, what we did was we quantified basically the demand for service. So I'm going to show you kind of the data that we were looking at. So we took calls for service data and we figured out how much time are officers spending reacting to calls. So this is the demand for their time. This is not proactively doing anything. This is being pulled out to a call. And we excluded command staff and we excluded some non-reactive call types because there are some in the CAD system. But for the most part, this is meant to capture how much demand for officer time is out there in the community. And we looked at it kind of by hour of the day of the week, month of the year. We looked at all of it. We had decided to use 2019 data. And at some point we do want to work with APD and to refresh it. But as we looked at the 2020 data, it just was too strange with COVID happening, lots of strange fluctuations that weren't happening in previous years. And then as we were doing this analysis in 2021, we didn't have enough data in 2021. So we decided to start with 2019 data and look at how much time are officers spending engaged in calls for service. And this does actually capture a fair amount of administrative time for officers because officers remain on calls while they're doing report. They remain logged on the call often while they're doing some reports. So that's something that'll be important too. So you don't need to know these numbers, but this is just kind of looking at throughout the day. And so that gives us demand. So then we want to look at the other side. We want to look at supply and how much capacity do officers have to respond to those calls for service. So this is again, just for the Southwest. We used the 2022 data. We had initially used 2021 data for staffing. And then when APD shifted to 12-hour tours, we updated the analysis using the new shift schedule. So what you'll see in these tables is this is how many officers are typically on duty assuming the 70% watch manning level. So that's their minimum staffing level. And what you can see on the right is where the PRTs, they basically would layer on top of the field officers. So these are field officers that are responding to calls. Again, it doesn't include command staff because we don't want to include them in our capacity calculations. But the PRTs are also not included. I'm showing them visually here so you can see how many layer on top, but we don't want them to be spending all of their time responding to calls for service either. So when we kind of say, this is how much workload there is, this is how much capacity exists to respond to that workload. And then we're able to look at unobligated time. And oh my goodness, my graph is very poor quality. I'm sorry, something must have happened when I saved it off. But I think you'll get the gist of it. So you'll see the dark gray at the very bottom of the chart. That shows how many minutes during a typical day officers spend engaged in a call for service. And then the dark purple that's layered on top of that is where you see this is how many minutes a day officers are scheduled to be on duty. So what you can see in the Southwest, and this is great, is that officers are able to meet the demands of the calls for service workload. So with this 12-hour shift, you know, they shouldn't be running call to call. There are some, of course, these are averages. So there might be some times where they are running call to call or calls are holding. But this really does show that officers can handle, for the most part, the calls for service workload. What you'll then see is that little light purple part on the top. That's where the PRTs layer on top, and they add this really great capacity during a very important time in terms of community policing, because community policing in the middle of the night is not as effective and efficient as community policing when businesses are open and people are out and about. So this is meant to kind of show you how the workload relates to the staffing level. And then that dark line that you see, that is what we call the community policing standard. So this is where the International Association of Chiefs of Police, the IACP, actually recommends nothing below 33%. So they would say, overall, we would like officers to have a third of their time available to engage in proactive activities. That's what the IACP would recommend. What you'll see here is that in the Southwest, officers actually have a little bit more time. And notably, during the 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. really critical time period for proactive policing activities, there's actually about 28 minutes of every hour for officers that's available to engage in proactive policing. And so that was very exciting for us to get to see. I have to say that when the department shifted to 12-hour tours, this picture dramatically changed. So this is what they look like with 12-hour tours. When they were on 10s, that schedule resulted in a much lower level of proactive policing. So they may not feel it yet. When we talk with officers, you know, they've only been in the 12-hour shifts for a short time. So that's something that we've talked with the monitoring team as well. We'd like to be able to come back and see how, you know, Albuquerque Community Safety's work is impacting this, how the 12-hour shifts are really impacting this, and rerun this data with more updated call times so that we can see. But what I'm very encouraged by this data, and it's showing that officers do have a pretty significant amount of time available to engage in proactive policing and to get to know their communities and to really be present and out there. So that was the bulk of what I wanted to share with you today. Do you have any questions?
I don't have any questions at this time. I don't think anyone has put any in the chat right now. Andrea, do you have any questions? And Haley, are you able to stay in case we develop questions as we go through the evening, speaking with the officers and asking other questions?
Definitely. And I'm happy to share this with a better quality graph too. I'm sorry about that. I don't know what happened.
Yes, if you could give us copies of this, we could attach them to our minutes and make them available for people to see at any time. That would be wonderful.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. All right, thank you. Okay, so good evening, Glenn St. Onge. How are you today? Thank you for joining us again. It's been almost a year since we saw you last. So can you bring us up to date and let us know how things are going with the LEAD, also known, I think, as the Standard Operating Procedure 2-79 for APD purposes? I'm not sure what you call it on the county level.
It's the same on the county level. So LEAD is the law enforcement assisted diversion. The county matched their, for the most part, their SOP is the same as APD's SOP regarding LEAD. So we tried to make everything concurrent across the board. Our Department of Behavioral Health Services also mirrored our internal SOPs and protocols to what the sheriffs and police and APD's protocols look like, or their SOPs. So as far as LEAD goes, the law enforcement assisted diversion, or we've since expanded since September to, it's now called Let Everyone Advance with Dignity. And that's where anybody and everybody can make a LEAD referral into our program when someone has a substance use disorder or a behavioral health issue, or is intersecting with that criminal justice system, because we want to keep those people out and into treatment while we keep the people that need to be in jail, if that makes sense. And I'm so sorry, Raul is one of my counterparts. We have a pretty big team that runs this LEAD program for Bernalillo County. And Raul is one of our program specialists. So he does a lot of the programmatic day-to-day stuff, as well as me as the program manager. I do kind of the overall, day-to-day operations, presentations, training, making those connections with the community, with our providers, with law enforcement. Trying to think, last year at about this time, we were receiving from everybody, I'm talking APD, BCSO, with true deferrals, and then social referrals, which means there's no charges present, but say Officer Candelaria thinks this, program might benefit somebody, they don't necessarily have to have charges to be referred to the program. So with everything last year about this time, we were maybe getting 2 to 4 referrals a month. And Raul, correct me if I'm wrong, we had almost 30 referrals for the month of May, as of which just ended yesterday. So we've been averaging between 20 to 30 referrals a month from this time last year. And a lot of that's just, the hard work of the officers, especially the PRT teams. I work very closely with all the PRT teams, the public defender's office, the DA's office, Department of Behavioral Health Services. We've really kind of, kicked this program in the butt, and we're starting to see a lot of success stories. We've had 5 people graduate from the program. They're abstinent, they've gotten jobs, we've gotten them into housing, they haven't been rearrested. And that's really our whole goal, is to reduce that recidivism. So, the officers can really work on that big fish stuff, the violent, the real violent stuff, the violent crime, and not have to worry about arresting somebody over and over for possession of meth or fentanyl or criminal trespassing or anything like that. So if I can remember correctly here, I don't think I presented this last time I spoke, but in 2019, the entire year, we only had 38 referrals. In 2020, we had 47. Last year, we almost topped 200 referrals for 2021. And 2022, we're on pace for 300 referrals for the year. So we're, I'm really proud of the team. I'm very proud of the officers, the deputies. Everybody's just been doing a really, really good job. Just recently, we also received the National Association of Counties Award for the entire United States. We received an award for the work we're doing with LEAD. Bernalillo County received that award. Gosh, I'm trying to think. Raul, can you add anything else on any updates we're doing?
Just really revamping, getting into the briefings that the deputies and officers are having, making sure that we're getting this information to community partners as well. We just did a presentation for ACS, and we have been doing presentations for Albuquerque community safety since the beginning of the year, maybe early December. So just really getting the word out there and working on our collaboration with all of the organizations that make these referrals and work with the similar individuals that we do.
Yeah, that's exactly right too. And that's another good point is we've trained up 100% of the ACS people out in the field taking calls. They are all lead trained. And we do get 12 to 14 referrals from them alone a month. And the rest is kind of a mixed bag of everything from deputies to officers to community providers. And that's really part of our big expansion program is, like I said, anybody can make a referral now. A business owner, a discharge planner at the hospital, pretty much anybody, as long as that person being referred is aware that they are being referred into the lead program. We take them from anybody.
That's all really exciting. And of course, I think the most exciting part is to hear that you have graduates.
Yes.
That's really exciting. So, okay, hang with us.
So if anybody has a question about what graduate means within the LEAD program, once the individuals are referred to our program, we conduct intake. They then have a time to complete what's called an individualized service plan, in which they outline the goals that they would like to complete or services they'd like to get connected to. They usually outline about 3 to 4. And as long as we get them connected to those 3 or 4 services, then that's what we represent as someone that completed our program.
Great. Andrea?
All right. Hi, Ron. How are you doing this evening? And I know you're part of the Southwest Area Command Crime Prevention Specialist. Can you tell us about yourself and what it means to be a crime prevention specialist?
I'm a veteran police officer of 32 years with the Albuquerque Police Department. Started in 1973 when the city of Albuquerque was 250,000 people and the police department was 400. I served 2 times as a police officer, 22 years the first time. I was absent for 10 years and came back for another 10 years. I left police work in 2015 and joined the crime prevention program. My main function is education. I set up the neighborhood watch program and coordinate with them, but I also instruct them on ways to protect their homes, their property, and themselves. I work with the crime-free multi-housing, which is the apartment complexes. I have 15 of them in the Southwest area. And I work with the management. I provide them information on what's going on in their apartment complexes so that they can hopefully problem tenants that are involved in criminal activity or disrupting the life within the apartment community. I work with business associations. I do security inspections for them, protect their businesses and not be victims of robberies, shoplifting, and other crimes. I also work with the neighborhood associations. I do all the activity in their area. And I'm also an instructor on ways to protect their property themselves. Be safe. That's basically what most of my function is going out and working with the community. Also a part of a new program called ADAPT, which was set up by the mayor's office and is run by the fire marshal's office, where we identify problem properties by the number of calls they're getting in time. We go out and we inspect these properties to properties cleaner, nicer, and also ways what they can do to, on their property to keep the criminal element out. And I really enjoy being crime prevention. It's an extension of being a police officer. And I think that we're making quite a little progress in the city of Albuquerque.
Wow, yeah, it sounds like you got your hands full. My first question you already answered. My next question is, how do people get in contact with you?
They can contact me by email at rkemp@cabq.gov. I also have a city cell phone, 505-377-6740. And I have an office at the Southwest Substation, and I can be reached there through the number for the substation.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Kemp. Hang around. We might have some questions for you to participate in a minute or so. But I wanted to say good evening to our CPC liaison, Kelly Mensa, and his assistant, Martisa Billy, who is having a bit of internet problems tonight. And I don't know if she can join us with her video, but she's here at least in name. So Kelly, could you please tell our community participants what they should do if they want to talk to us instead of just putting the information in the chat or asking in the Q&A?
If you'd like, you can raise your hand in the attendee room there, and I will be happy, if the council allows it, to upgrade you and to make you a guest so you can ask your questions specifically to our guest tonight.
Okay, the community participants, if you do decide to do that you would actually like to talk with us, please tell us what area of Albuquerque you are coming from or you're located in before you ask your comments or make your questions. I said that backwards, ask your questions and make your comments. And this session is to be a conversation between everyone here. So please feel free to respectfully respond to any other's comments and all questions asked. So my first question is anybody here familiar with the Albuquerque Police Department app 75.1, which I think is for the officers to use when they encounter a person? Are any of the officers familiar with that, or any of you using it? What is your experience? Is it working? Feel free to jump in, anyone.
And where do my officers go?
Yeah, so the 75-1 app is something that we use whenever we go to a community engagement event. So it can be something in person, a community meeting. So pretty much what that gives us the ability to do is just input the data from it. So what kind of event was it? How many people attended? So we pass on that data to our department, so it gets tracked. So yeah, anything from taking our lowrider to events, like we just did the Gathering of Nations little over a month ago, a month and a half. So that's considered a 75-1, which is we have a lot of 10 codes, but that's the 10 code for us. 75-1 is a community engagement event. So
if there's any community participants that are here with us this evening, and if you have encountered an officer that used the app, please let us know. We'd like to know what your experience was like with that app and the officer that you encountered. So then if we can always come back to that topic if we have anybody that does want to participate. But I was wondering how the officers, is it a part of your ongoing daily business, referring people to Mr. Kemp, to Ron Kemp, the crime prevention specialist? Do you have a method of working together and getting the business owners and the residents to Mr. Kemp so he can help them do what's necessary to avoid break-ins and so on and so forth?
yeah,
Anyone?
so myself, Officer Candelaria, Officer Garcia, part of what we do as far as the PRT team is we're contacting these businesses that are having people loitering. I mean, they could be someone just kind of hanging out in front of a store. They could be the homeless with like camp set up. But what that gives us the ability to do is contact these businesses and say, you know, as far as enforcement action, what would you like us to do? Do you want them just removed? Do you want them criminally trespassed? But in order for us to enforce something, we need to contact the business owner and we have to get that confirmation that they want them criminally trespassed. But what helps us help the business is these businesses have to have signs. So they have to have no trespassing signs in order for it to be enforced. Because if there's no trespassing signs, I know it sounds kind of ridiculous, but if there's no trespassing signs and it's not clearly posted, you know, someone could just kind of hang around even though it's private property. So that in itself gives us the ability to go up and contact that person, let them know they are criminally trespassing and take some type of enforcement action. If there's crime specifically on a specific side of, say, a business where there's not really lighting or something like that, we can get a hold of him and he can go out there and, you know, kind of give him a rundown, just kind of a lay of the land, so to say, just kind of look around and say like, well, you don't have trespassing signs. You know, it may help if you cut these bushes down to where you guys have a better view. And I'm sure he can give you a little bit more information about that stuff, but those are kind of things that, you know, that we observe and we can kind of pass it on to him to go out and make contact with that business to help us help the business after all. So.
Officer Candelaria, did you want to add something to that?
I was about to, but Officer Bethea said it so eloquently. He took the words right out of my mouth.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Gabe.
Wanda, I'd like to maybe add a little more information on that.
Certainly.
You know, it's not just the PRT officers, but I can tell you a lot of my supervisors, they look at reoccurring addresses. If that address is getting a lot of calls for service, they work really well with Ron Kemp because through our crime prevention specialist initiative, we also offer to any residents or any business, we offer a survey. It's like an inspection. It's free of charge. The Ron Kemp will develop and go on site and develop a survey of the location to see what may be attracting the crime in that location and how better to prepare not only a residence or a business to protect them from crime. So a lot of the times we'll give them like crime prevention tips. And the survey that we offer them, it's called Crime Prevention Through Environmental Design. So Ron, would you like to expand on that? Because I think this is one of the tools that doesn't get a lot. It's available and it's very useful. A lot of our adapt properties that Mr. Kemp hit on, we actually provide them, give them a lot of these recommendations on how to keep their properties crime free. Ron, do you want to touch on the subject?
Was that a question for me, Commander?
Yeah, did you want to touch base on the SEPTEDs for any residents or any business?
The SEPTED, what it stands for is Crime Prevention Through Environmental Design. And some of there are four major categories. Line of sight, which basically is you want to make it where criminals can be seen and you can see them. Concealment is another one. You want to keep your shrubbery down to no higher than 2 feet, not provide places for people to hide and conceal themselves. Maintenance is a real major issue. It comes under what we call the broken window theory, that if you'll, basically that says if you're in an area and you have a broken window and you don't fix it, you put a plywood or cardboard and then something else goes wrong, you're sending a message to the community, we don't care about this property. And part of maintenance is removing the graffiti, making sure that all building repairs, parking lot repairs are completed, and shrubbery is kept. so to send an image to the community, we do care, this is our property, and we want to keep the undesirable element out of our property. Another element of it is territoriality. You want to establish that your, whatever it is, this is our territory. We encourage by fencing, which establishes this is our area, and then beyond that, especially for businesses, no trespassing signs. That's a sign to the certain individuals. You are not allowed on the property if you're not here for legal purposes to do business. It also gives the police the authority to take action against anyone violating the trespassing ordinance. Those are the major categories of what SEPTED takes a part of.
Thank you, Ron. I appreciate that.
Question really quick for Officer Gabriel Candelaria. Are you a LEED certified, and are you using the LEED plan with all your contacts with those in need?
Hello, yes, I am LEED certified. And no, LEED is not appropriate for all the contacts that we make. It's a voluntary program, and the individual has to be willing to this type of deferred action. If they have no interest in it, if they're not willing to abide by the criteria and abide by what's being asked in the LEED program, they have to be a willing participant. In certain instances where somebody has, for example, if they have a violent felony warrant, absolutely could they be recommended to the LEED program, you know, on the side if they meet the criteria of an eligible individual? Yes, but there are certain instances where a person has to go to jail. It's an order from a judge, and that would be in the case of a violent felony warrant. Sometimes people, they want to be a part of the LEED program. They're just not eligible. They can't have committed a violent felony or been convicted of a violent felony. I don't know the eligibility criteria off the top of my head, but I know it has to do in regards, or 3 years, I believe. Thank you, sir. If some people, they're willing, and I believe before I have called and asked for an exception, somebody committed a violent felony. It was maybe like 2.5 years ago. They were so close to the cutoff date, and I believe they did take this into account and accept them into the program. But no, it's not appropriate for every circumstance, but there are a lot of circumstances in which it is appropriate. The criteria, it's not strict, but they can have committed certain crimes within certain periods of time.
Gotcha. Thank you. I appreciate that. Sorry, guys. I'm working on notes and stuff at the same time. Please bear with me. All right, officers, has there been any improvements of the calls for service in the Coors Central corridor? And if not, is it moving north to the motel area instead of the shopping center area? And anybody can jump in and answer that question if needed.
I don't know the numbers in regards to calls for service at the Coors and Central area, but I will tell you the foot traffic, especially among the transient population, they cause a lot of problem in regards to quality of life stuff like trespassing, illegally crossing the street, pedestrians in the roadway. That's very seasonal, and it really dies down during the winter. The summer, the foot traffic really picks up in that area. Coors and Central especially. We have people, a lot of them coming from out of town surrounding areas, Bernalillo, Tahajali, surrounding communities. They come to kind of Coors and Central. It's kind of a central hub for whatever the reason is. So it's very seasonal. And it was also very strange during COVID with some of the businesses shutting down. The last year has kind of been strange, but now that things are starting to open back up, we are seeing the uptick in foot traffic amongst a lot of the transient populations of people that just come in from out of town to the Coors and Central area.
Why do you think it's seasonal? Why do you think it comes up and the numbers increase during the summer versus the winter? Is it
I think the
because, you know,
simple answer is, I think it's the weather.
that's what I was gonna say,
People don't want to be, I think it's simple. I think people just don't want to be outside
the winter.
during the winter, but during the summer, it really picks up, especially there's a grass area that's in front of the Walgreens at Coors and Central. And it's kind of an infamous area. It's just infamous for people hanging out there, drinking there. It's that really kind of gives the move, sets the tone for kind of the Coors and Central area. If that place is super busy and super crazy, it just kind of tells you how the rest of the area may be.
And has the ACS department being able to take calls helped with like everyday work?
I think I might be able to answer that one as well. Honestly, kind of the frustrating thing is, I don't think they go off our dispatch. I believe they're fire dispatch. So it's kind of hard to see. So I really don't know. It's kind of hard to see what calls they do and they don't take, because I believe they go off fire dispatch.
If I may just kind of piggyback off of it, actually last ACS was at the library off of Unser in Central, and they had a gentleman inside, and there was 3 ACS. So the gentleman was getting aggressive towards them, so they ended up calling us. So I actually responded when ACS was there and utilizing their training and everything, but it became a point to where it was unsafe for them, even 3 individuals, to kind of deal with. He was going through a behavioral health issue. So that's just one of those things where it did, escalate to where it did take law enforcement to kind of get involved and deal with him. But
Are you seeing that happen often, or is ACS able to handle it?
to be completely honest, just like Officer Candelaria was saying, sometimes they'll request us, but it doesn't seem to be too often. But whenever they're logged on something, we have no idea because we can't see on our computer aided dispatch. We call it a CAD system. We were unable to see where they're logged or how they're logged. And oftentimes we'll be on a call and they'll show up, or vice versa, just because I believe, like Officer Candelaria said, they operate off of AFR's CAD system. So
Interesting. So if they operate off of the fire dispatch system, and if they need you, do they have to call into dispatch for the police department to get your help, or do they have like a direct line to get your help?
yeah, so I believe they're, as we call it, comms. Their comm center, so their radios, they're under the same building, so it's pretty easy for them to get a hold of us if a bit of a situation were to kind of escalate. So
Okay, perfect. Okay. All right, so bike patrol officers, it's Martine, right? And then Dion. Either one of you, what area of the Southwest do you patrol?
Just to touch base on that. So we kind of are all over the Southwest. We kind of just pick different target areas, but our high foot traffic areas are going to be the ones that were stated. Those are kind of primarily where we do patrol. As far as Coors and Central and Atrisco and Coors and Iliff, those are kind of where we've been able to find more of hotspots and spike in foot traffic, like Officer Candelaria was saying, and different kinds of issues that these businesses and residents in the area are having from these type of foot traffic, stuff like that. So those are the 3 main target areas that we seem to loop around during shift, kind of just up and down Central mainly, and then over to Coors and Iliff. So,
And I know this might sound really kind of a funny question. Are you really on bicycles?
We have yet to now just because of staffing level, but yeah, we will be on bikes. We have different plans that we've been working out to try and be able to do so. But once we have the manning level, Officer Candelaria and Sergeant Lujan are also bike certified and have bicycles at the substation. So we can roll right now with 4-man on bikes, but the idea is to possibly have even one more officer to be able to provide transportation as myself and Officer Bethea are doing the bike patrol. So we have yet to as of today, but yeah, that's something that we're trying to plan, especially for the summer and stuff like that, to be able to, it gives us a different kind of element to be able to see things that we normally wouldn't in our patrol vehicles, kind of be able to deploy a little bit more stealthily.
Do you think that once you're able to get on the bicycles, do you think you'll be able to interact more within the community as you're patrolling?
I think so. I think from what I've seen from myself and Officer Bethea went to National Police Week in Washington, D.C. recently, and talking to other bike patrol officers, it seems like for whatever reason, people seem more susceptible to talking to bike officers. I think it makes us, for whatever reason it is, it makes it a little bit more approachable to kind of see us out there. I know just from writing and taking the certification for our bike class, there was a lot of individuals that were coming outside to offer some water or something to drink. And then you just go off of that. Me and Officer Bethea, we love to talk to people. So I think just our personalities alone, and even just somebody stopping by to offer us a drink because it's hot or whatever, we end up making that an interaction and figuring out if they're having any types of issues, any things that we can kind of go off of.
I know for myself, I would much rather approach an officer on a bicycle instead of somebody that I can't see inside a car because the windows are so dark. I don't really know if anyone's in there. And when that window rolls down, I have no idea what I'm going to see or find. And I find that very frightening. I would much rather find somebody on a bicycle or a horse that I can see before I walk up to them. So I can understand why people run out and see you when you're on your bicycle.
Yeah, and I don't know what the science is behind it, but exactly what you just said. People love to see officers on bikes for whatever reason. And it's not just here in Albuquerque, it's from talking to other officers from Canada to Washington to Seattle to Dallas, like everybody loves a bike officer for whatever reason. It makes us more approachable. So yeah, it's something that we're trying to work with Commander and Sergeant Lujan, but really we just need to find another body to make it safe to do so, because that could also be another thing too.
Yeah, I think it just makes you more personable. And it definitely, in my opinion, would definitely open up, it's going to open up communication between the officers and the community. Like I said, if they walk out and hand you a bottle of water, that's your communication opener right there.
Right.
And you can just talk. Yeah, just talk about whatever. And then they get to know you. And then the more they see you in the neighborhood, they're going to feel more comfortable with approaching and saying, hey, this is what's going on. What can I do? And then you can point them in the right direction and how to help.
Yeah, exactly. And like Officer Bethea said earlier, we're trying to work on getting business coalitions and stuff like that, but we've kind of already done our rounds to different types of businesses to hand out business cards, and some of these businesses have our direct contact information, so that way if it's not an immediate emergency, that they can call us directly to kind of so that way we can deal with whatever frequent flyer that they're having, shoplifting and such like that. So yeah, it's I think just the title of bike officer and being able to pass out our business cards and hopefully getting this business coalition started, it'll be great for each individual areas, I think. And ultimately it's just all about working together, help us, help you type thing. So.
Right. Are they trying to do this business coalition in other parts of the city or just in the Southwest? Do you know?
So it came off of Lieutenant Trepetowski. Myself and Officer Bethea had worked on doing it in the Northeast about 1.5 years ago. So we were pretty successful about doing it up and down the Montgomery corridor.
Mhm.
And I'm pretty sure Lieutenant Trepetowski also implemented it in the Nob Hill area. So they're working on that there. I don't know what their progress is in the Nob Hill, but I can speak for the Montgomery one, in particular, Montgomery and San Mateo. They were able to really help each other out on identifying offenders pretty quickly, because chances are if you don't have the information, somebody else will if they're frequent flyers. So yeah, it's really, like I said, it's working together. So we were able to get success off of the Montgomery and San Mateo one.
Would you mind providing me with your information? I own a business off of Montgomery and Eubank, and it's really bad up there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Really bad.
Yeah, I can.
Maybe I can get in contact with that business coalition in that part of town to try to help, because we're getting our windows are shot at like weekly. We have homeless people sleeping and smoking drugs and stuff in front of the building, and then they go and they rob the marshals, and then they come over to our building and switch out clothes and leave all the hangers and everything there for us to clean up. So it's been really bad lately. We're actually thinking about moving to the west side.
Yeah, I haven't worked up there in a couple of years now, but
Yeah.
I don't know where that program's at anymore, or where they're at. So yeah, definitely. I put my email in the chat for you.
Perfect. Thank you.
Officer Bethea will help out, and he can give some more as well to see if there's anything for you. Absolutely.
Thank you. I appreciate that, honey. Thank you.
Of course.
I wanted to say thank you to the people that responded in the chat by explaining what the Albuquerque Community Safety Department is. Some people were unsure. We should have explained that when we started talking about the ACS. So sorry for that, but thank you for explaining it for us. And then also, I think it's Jonna Harris that's wanting to know if we're still supposed to be calling 311 to report transient homeless camps in all areas around the city, including by the freeways and empty lots. Does anyone have an answer for that?
Yeah, I can answer that, Amanda. Yes,
Thank you.
311 would be appropriate. If it's even if it's part of a different jurisdiction like the freeway, like DOT. I constantly get emails from other constituents about some of the homeless taking, ownership of the Coors and I-40 area. So I work in partnership with a group of from DOT that I send them those concerns. So yes, please, you can send them to me, or you can send them on 311. We get them and we read them to the proper jurisdiction. That would not be a 242 cops call. Homeless encampment would not be a 242 cops call.
Okay. Did everyone understand that? Wanda's having difficulty with her ears tonight. And okay, look, Donna says thank you in the chat. So she must have gotten the information that she needed from you. And I noticed earlier somebody asked where they should be posting their no trespassing signs in residential areas, and somebody responded in a clearly obvious place. So that people, and I have a question about that no trespassing. So if somebody puts out a sign like that, does that mean you're not allowed to go and knock on their door? So if my neighbor has a no trespassing sign, I can't go ask for a cup of sugar?
It depends on the verbiage of the sign, ma'am. There are signs specific to commercial businesses that cite the city ordinance and or the state statute. And most of the signs prohibit trespassing and people not conducting business on the property. There are ones that are specifically written for residential areas, and they say no soliciting, and I believe they cite a city ordinance. So it depends on what the sign says and what ordinance and or statute in the language in that mentioned ordinance or statute.
Okay, well, I also find those no soliciting sign that the police office the substations handout, I find those to be very frightening too. When I walk through the neighborhood and want to chat with my neighbors about things that are happening in the neighborhood and what can we change, I find those signs to be very frightening and intimidating, which basically say, if you knock on my door, I'm going to call the police on you. They're very intimidating for me. It makes it difficult to try to work with your neighbors and get together and discuss issues. Sorry, my little guard dogs. If they have those signs that I find intimidating. But anyway, that's Wanda easily intimidated by a sign, apparently.
Quick question.
Andre?
Yeah, well, so what sign would you suggest that a commercial building put up? One with the statute on it?
Absolutely. I'd even recommend the city ordinance because generally the language in city ordinance is a little bit more general and gives us an easier time taking enforcement action. But just off the top of my head, I think it's city ordinance 1251 and state statute 3014 01, I believe. Don't cite me, but I believe those are pretty close to the state statutes and city ordinances.
Where would you suggest that we can purchase that from?
I
Well,
believe
that
we're
already
giving-
has it.
I believe we were giving some out from the substation, if I'm not right, but I think Commander could correct me on that if I'm wrong, but I believe we had some at the substation and they're available at Home Depot, Walmart. I even saw some at Family Dollar, and usually on the sign, there's a place where you're meant to write in with permanent marker your local ordinance and or statute for reference.
Perfect. Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Andrea, I'll touch base on that. So what we recommend is a fixed sign, a durable sign. Any sign company here in Albuquerque has the proper verbiage that Officer Candelaria was alluding to, especially the city ordinance. It gives law enforcement the ability to stop and detain somebody there if they're not conducting the legitimate business that business offers. So for example, if your business is closed in the middle of the night and somebody decides to be on your property for a long period of time, as long as that sign is visible from 100 feet away and it has the verbiage of the city ordinance, the officers can actually stop, detain, identify, and then issue a criminal trespass or even a misdemeanor citation with the city ordinance on it. So it does have to be specific to the city ordinance for us to actually take enforcement action.
Okay. And I just want to just say something really quick of that. We did have an issue, at our building. Like I said, it's not in the Southwest, it's up there off of Montgomery and Eubank. And I just want to commend the officers. Actually did an amazing job. They responded pretty quickly. The gentleman was, under the influence with drugs, and he actually ran out into the middle of Eubank, which everybody knows has over 30,000 cars a day that go by. And if it wasn't for the officers jumping out into the middle of Eubank and stopping traffic, he would have been hit and probably killed. But they both jumped out, they stopped traffic, and then he went to the other side of Eubank and they jumped out and stopped traffic, and he was able to survive. He hasn't come back, but I just want to throw a little shout out saying how well they did.
Thank you, we appreciate that. And also one more tip on those trespassing signs. We've seen that some people, they'll tamper with them. So we suggest that they get installed or placed on your building a little higher than 10 feet, so that way they can't be tampered with. Because
Okay.
if you destroy them, they peel them off. I don't know why they do that, but they do, and we've seen that happen. So if you're going to invest in a durable sign, we recommend that you place it high enough. That also works on our behalf as police officers, because when we're driving and patrolling on the street, we're more likely to see something that's actually a little higher, placed higher, because we're looking at it from either an SUV or another police car, and we can actually see it from the street. If we can see it from the street, then definitely the person that walked onto my property was able to see it. And
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Thank you, Commander.
welcome.
Sorry, I mute my little guard dogs that are making too much noise tonight. And there's a question in the chat about trespassing, and I don't know if any of the officers saw that and wanted to respond. I think it would be pretty hard to say you can't turn around in my driveway? And don't you have to witness it yourself in order to issue a trespassing citation?
So are you referring to the question about by, I believe, Margaret Agnes Hernandez?
Yes.
Well, to answer that question quite bluntly, I think the better solution to this would be a gate. I personally probably wouldn't cite somebody for flipping a U-turn or using a driveway to turn unless there was some type of more nefarious activity involved. But it would be up to that officer's discretion. I don't think it quite meets the purpose of the trespassing ordinance or statute, but I guess it would be a case-by-case scenario. But if I were to receive a call saying they used my driveway to turn so they could go into the neighbor's house, absent further proof, and if they were to park legally on the street and just use the driveway to turn, I probably wouldn't issue them a citation for trespassing.
Does everyone basically agree with that, that would be something that would be very difficult to enforce, very annoying if it's your house? And the reason that they believe that they're using their driveway, I would be highly annoyed myself. But does everybody kind of agree that there's not a lot that an officer could do under those circumstances?
Just to kind of piggyback off of that, if you actually read the state statute for criminal trespassing, I believe, so it says criminal trespass consists of knowingly entering or remaining upon posted private property without possessing written permission from the owner or person in control of the land. So, I mean, that can kind of be picked apart, but necessarily the portion where it says remaining upon the posted. So technically at that point, you would have to be loitering. So turning around wouldn't necessarily meet that. So if you walk on the property and you're kind of standing there beyond that sign, then that would technically meet the trespassing statute.
And we're not dismissing your concerns, ma'am, Marguerite. We're not dismissing your concerns. However, I don't think trespassing would kind of what we want to be going after. Any potential foot traffic that's staying or coming onto your property as a result of this, absolutely. But people just using your driveway to make a U-turn, I think there's other ways to remedy that. Perhaps a gate. If you got two vehicles, park two vehicles so that they're taking up your driveway. If your HOA allows it, maybe put a can or something that would prevent somebody from pulling into there, something to obstruct their ability to pull into your driveway. But I don't think trespassing would be an appropriate ordinance to cite in this situation.
It seems like it could continue to be frustrating because even if you put up a gate, they could still use the apron, I forget what it's called, and then the sidewalk. So they literally could still use your driveway, even if you did put up a gate to try to eliminate it. Maybe there's a way we can approach. I mean, that's what the CPC is for, discussing these situations and how can we make it different. So maybe what we need to look at is another way to try to help with what she's finding on her street or near her home, which is the selling of drugs. So maybe we need to think about as a community, how do we come together and help someone that's dealing with this constant turning in her driveway to go to some place to have illegal activities. Do we have any suggestions for that?
I can chime in really quick, Wanda. I just responded to Ms. Margarita for providing that address of possible narcotic sales. So I'm going to forward that to our undercover detectives, see if they can do maybe a sting operation or attack plan or even some undercover surveillance. So thank you for sharing that location with me, Margarita. Or Marguerite, I'm sorry. I will address that and conduct some follow-up.
I think that's great. That's perfect. And I mean, I understand what she's saying, because even on my streets, like, and it drives me insane. People will come down and then they use my driveway to make a, like you said, a U-turn to like pull in and then pull back out. So I have, 4 vehicles. I have 2 in the garage, 1 in the driveway, and then I put 1 on, near my sidewalk, on the road. Could I use that other vehicle to block my driveway? Would that be like a cause for getting a ticket or anything like that? Or do I have to park it on the street?
If you're asking if you're able to park a vehicle obstructing a driveway, no, ma'am, I believe that would be against one of our city ordinances.
Okay, that's what I wanted to know. Thank you. Thank you.
So
Yeah,
you wouldn't
that's
even,
a great question, Andrea. That's a great question. We face those type of problems in the neighborhood of just west of the fairgrounds. Those neighborhoods would just complain about all the illegal parking of people parking to go to the fairgrounds, especially on Dollar Day. And I worked with all the neighbor associations, city councils, and Department of Municipal Development to make it permanent parking over there. And that's one thing that was really a lot of homeowners thought, well, why can't I park my own vehicle registered here to my house and block my own driveway? And it really comes down to a public safety matter. No driveway per our city ordinance or park ordinance, no driveway can be blocked by any vehicle. And that's actually a total offense. You can actually tow your vehicle off that because the street's a public street. It's not permanent. That's a great question.
is there some sort of ordinance or something about people parking in front of their house, which literally parks them at the stop sign for that street?
Yes.
Well, there's parking ordinance for a variety of things. You can't park more than 30 feet from a stop sign. You can't park blocking a driveway. You can't park blocking a fire hydrant. So the parking ordinance is very lengthy. But as far as parking on private property, there's nothing to say that you can park as many vehicles you want on your property, as long as it's not impeding the sidewalk or the driveway. You can park on your property.
There are areas over here where if somebody parks in front of their house, they are literally parked at the stop sign because of the way the house is situated on the corner. They're parked between the corner and their driveway, and that literally stops them at the stop sign. And the other thing that I've noticed here in Ohio, or excuse me, in New Mexico, that they don't do, which they did religiously in Ohio, is they mark that it's yellow. 25 feet from the stop sign or whatever, it's always marked off there. So you can't park anywhere where it's yellow. But those people would not be able to park in front of their own home because clearly the 25 feet would be marked off in yellow.
Right.
So that's a little weird to me. So are we answering everyone's questions?
It looks like Marguerite just sent another message, maybe Commander, for you to take a look at. But it was just a statement, more information, I guess, than a question. So I think we so far, I think we've answered everybody's questions.
I see there's a note about the sidewalk and the apron belonging to the city, but I think we have to actually pay for that. I had to pay for the hole that was made in the sidewalk when they repaired my water line. So, and I think if your apron is damaged, I think, I had to repair the hole for the water line repair here. I had to pay for that. And I know in Ohio, you had to pay for that. It wasn't the city. You don't own it, but you still have to pay for the repairs. So maybe the point is that you can't say it's private property and people can't park there. You can't put your no trespassing zone there, sign there if it's city owned. But it's all very confusing here. So is anybody a part of the ambassador program, or any of our officers part of the ambassador program? Is that working out? Is it helping you out in any way, making your policing easier, making constitutional community policing easier? I guess not. There's no response, so it must not be helping anyone out.
I personally am not a part of the ambassador program.
Neither am I or Officer Garcia.
Okay, so Officer Garcia and Officer Bethea, are you lead certified? Did we ask you that?
Yes, so whenever it comes down to contacting someone, then we can do a lead referral.
Okay, do you believe that helps you out with the constitutional community-oriented policing that we're striving to have here in the Southwest Albuquerque?
Yeah, I believe it is a case-by-case basis, kind of like Officer Candelaria was talking about earlier. Just of course with the criteria. But I believe the last one that I did was in the Southeast, probably around like January time. And yeah, that was instead of citing someone, just going to give you just a quick backstory. I was actually on bike patrol. Didn't expect me to kind of rode up on a gentleman who was just about to use some narcotics, and instead of kind of going through the process, I ended up using the lead referral. So
it sounds then like that is a very, very helpful program, and that we should be really glad that we have it, because it does help with the community-oriented policing then, and interacting with citizens and residents, and trying to do something other than just put everyone in jail. Does that sound like an agreeable comment?
Again, it is case by case. I mean, some of these people that, you know, we come across, whether they have a violent felony history, depending on why we're there in the first place. I mean, there's a lot of different factors. I mean, it is great having that option for the lead referral. So it is nice to have that, but you know, once everything's kind of, I'm going to say, filtered, you know, if it really comes down to it, it is nice having that as an option to use the lead.
And it sounds like it's doing its job. It sounds like it's picking up its pace, and it's doing what it needs to do.
Have you been able to pick up with training again? Is the COVID pandemic under control enough that you guys have been able to have any of your ongoing training for de-escalation and so on and so forth?
Yeah, that's something that we actually have a lot of in the academy, and we've been out of the academy for quite some time now, but that's something that all officers across APD, we get it yearly. So we're one of the departments across the nation that actually lead CIT. And so, yeah, we utilize that training quite often.
So can I expand on that, Wanda?
Oh, absolutely.
So every officer, even coming out of the academy, they must complete a 40-hour CIT course. It's 40 hours basic course for crisis intervention training. In addition to that, we also have a collateral duty that officers can sign up and be an enhanced crisis intervention officer. It requires a little more training, a little more education to have that as a certification for themselves. When they do that, they have to attend every 2 years a remedial training, a recertification to keep up with it. They respond to a lot of our calls where there's no mental illness. Somebody at the actual going to is suffering from some kind of mental health crisis or some kind of mental health problem. So we always request an ECIT officer. I can tell you that's been one of my goals as I took over the Southwest Area Command, to increase the amount of officers that are ECIT certified in the Southwest Area. And I can tell you I'm gaining a lot of strength on that in operation. When I first got here, it was overwhelming to see how many officers I did not have. We get a report on a month-to-month basis from our crisis intervention unit of how many calls we take that are specifically to mental health, a call. And then if we had an ECIT officer or one of our mobile crisis team dispatched to that call. So we're also graded on that. When I saw the reduction in numbers and percentage, I made that one of my goals in the Southwest, to make sure that I had a spread of officers throughout day shift, swing shift, and graveyard to be able to be CIT certified to help us with that. Because that is actually one of the mandates and one of the requirements part of the concept.
Thank you. I see that Mr. St. Onge has added something in the chat about what you were just talking about, and I'm going to ask him to expound on what he has put into the chat. Tell us more, please, and then we're just about out of time. So let's hear some good news on how great our programs are here in Albuquerque.
Oh, I was just gonna really piggyback on what the commander said. I ran our CIT program for about 7 years as a sergeant and a lieutenant. And I went all around the nation teaching CIT at conferences, international conferences, and speaking with many other law enforcement departments. I mean, they couldn't hold a candle to what we were doing here in Albuquerque as far as our mental health response, and how far we've come since the CASA with our mental health response, like the commander said, with the mobile crisis teams, enhanced CIT, certifying everybody in crisis intervention. And that was usually one of the golden questions when I was an investigator. Was the first question was there a CIT officer present? So, you know, I'm still very passionate about mental health and CIT, and just Albuquerque. Nobody can touch Albuquerque as far as what we do for crisis intervention and training for officers, should I say.
That's great. It's always good news for our officers here, knowing that they're on the track to being just a wonderful group of people that are taking care of our city. We're really excited to know that we have such compassionate and passionate officers here in our area. And Haley, I'm sorry I asked you to stay for the whole meeting and nobody else wanted to know about your hard work for getting us more officers. So as a bottom line, do we deserve more PRT officers here in the Southwest?
Well, I think what I'm really excited to see is how the officers decide to use that time. I think it's really awesome that Albuquerque has those teams, because a lot of communities ask officers to just do community policing on the side, and having teams that can be strategic and actually go after problems and deal with things, because it's hard to do that in 15 or 20-minute time frames here and there. So I'm really excited to see what happens. And I'm hopeful that we can actually rerun the analysis at the end of the year as well to see how the 12-hour tours are going.
Great. Well, I think it's great that we
are really incredible based on my ride along. So yay.
I think it's nice that we have such outgoing personalities in our PRT and our bike team here in the Southwest. I think that's a really important feature, to have somebody that's robust and willing to speak to individuals. Are great for those positions. So I'm really excited to hear about that. Have we covered everyone's questions this evening? Is there anyone else that has a comment they'd like to make about what we've talked about? Any questions, anything we left untouched that somebody wants to bring up before we close? We're just about at that bewitching hour. Anybody else? I want to thank everyone for joining us. It was good to see you again, Mr. St. Onge, and bring us up to date. It's just a wonderful program. I want to hear more about graduations. I love graduations. Thanks to everyone that joined us, our officers. It's so good to get to know you, get to see your faces so that we recognize you on the street. We're really excited about being able to do that. So thank you for coming and spending time with us. And Mr. Kemp, thanks for all your important information about how to make our homes and businesses safer. We're really appreciative of that. So anyone else, anything else, Andrea?
No, we covered all the questions in the chat. I just triple checked and made sure I didn't leave anybody's questions out. And thank you, Kelly, so much for helping me with the chat. I really, really appreciate it. And thank you all for attending. It was a great conversation. I learned so much. And I'm sure everybody else did. And I really hope everybody can join us again. Our next meeting is July 6th, 2022. And we will be discussing recruiting and training to promote constitutional community-oriented policing. I hope all of you have a wonderful evening. Have a blessed night and stay safe.
And if we have nothing else, we'll consider ourselves adjourned at 7:29. I didn't keep you late, but I'm going to keep Commander Barraza and Andrea Young and say goodnight to everyone else. Thank you so very much.
Thank you, guys.
Thank
Appreciate
you all
it.
for coming. Thank you all for
Have a
attending.
wonderful evening.
Commander Barraza, what I wanted to ask you about specifically tonight is there's thoughts of going, they call them hybrid, I call them dual, because to me, hybrid is creating something new and we're not creating something new. We're doing two things at the same time, dual.
I have to
In
stay
person.
on because otherwise the thing will go off. So
What?
I have to stay on, otherwise the workshop is going to go off. So
Yeah, we want you here. You're okay to be here. Yeah. So what I wanted to ask you, Commander, is how do you feel about having a dual meeting, having some people by Zoom and having some people in person? Or is the thought, Kelly, to have all of us be in person at the library and then you're just Zooming it out to everyone else? And so, Commander, I wanted to know your opinion. Do you have any thoughts on us doing that, what you would like us to do going forward?
Yeah, I think the best solution if we're gonna do, like you said, a hybrid model or hybrid CPC is have all the panelists in one area. So that we work together and not separated, rather than having the panelists separated by Zoom or in person. I think all the panelists would be better if we all did it together in one location.
So is that your own personal computer, or did the city give that to you?
The computer?
Uh-huh.
It's the city computer.
Okay, so could you talk to your IT department and tell them that your speaker just doesn't work very well? And
I think it's your internet connection or something. Because your mouth is behind the words all day.
Okay, yeah, I did get a message yesterday. We had problems with our internet here at my house. It went down. Does it sound better now?
it's one of those things where I find it's kind of like wearing a mask. If I don't look at the people, I can hear them. So if I don't look at you, I can hear you a little bit better. But seriously, have you ever been to those programs and people are underwater and they talk to you about the fish that's swimming around them? To me, that's how you sound. You become very garbled the longer you talk. Initially, I can understand you, and then it becomes garbled. And I'm so afraid I'm missing important stuff that you're saying.
I've never had that complaint. I've used the same computer for the last 6 months, and I've never had that as a concern.
See, that's what I think is.
It might be my internet connection. Next time I'll just do the hotspot for my phone.
Well, what I thought was so interesting is Raul from the lead. He said he could hear you fine, but I don't think I'm the only one that's been struggling to hear you. Is it just my ears?
No. Yeah, it's kind of going in and out. Like I can hear him really good for like a minute and then it just kind of goes down and then it comes back up. But yeah, I kind of feel like I'm missing something. So I keep putting my ear a little bit closer. I'm all hoping I'm not missing anything, but I guess I do have a question though. I personally am not really sure how I would feel about going in-person meetings. If we did in-person meetings, I would feel more comfortable with everybody wearing a mask. And I'm immunocompromised, so I have to be really careful with COVID. So unless I am away from other people, you know what I mean? Like if they're not gonna wear a mask, if it's not gonna be enforced, then I need to kind of be away. And of course I'll wear my mask. But you know, just to throw that out there.
Okay, that is what I wanted to know, because they're starting to talk about doing it again. And so I wanted to get feedback from the people that will be the primary participants in this if and when we do it.
And if there was a way, I mean, I've never done a in-person meeting with the CPC because when I joined, obviously it was COVID. So if there was a way to maybe put us, like the council members, like away from other people, like, you know what I mean? Kind of like section us away from other people. So if they didn't want to wear their mask and stuff, they would kind of be 6 feet away from me. And then, of course, I would just still wear my mask. And I'm vaccinated I just had my 5th shot, so, but I still have to be very careful.
So Commander, if I understood everything that you were saying, I think you said you would like to be at the library or back in person and maybe project the meeting out to other people. Did I understand that correctly?
Well, personally, if you ask me, I
Uh-huh.
think this works because it's convenient for my schedule and my family, because this is after my hours, but it's once a month. I don't mind doing it in person. But like I said, and I think I agree with Andrea, because COVID is still something, it's a thing that's very active. I take a daily test every day because I'm suffering right now from some kind of congestion, and I'm negative on the rapid test, but I have congestion from a sinus infection. But with all that said, even though it's warm, I think if we're going to go back in person, we need to set it up where even ourselves are having that social distancing. And if anybody wants to wear a mask, we can wear a mask. But again, if we do go back in person, I would think that the panelists would have to be together in one area and not separated.
Unless, is there a way, if we do in-person meeting, can we make it mandatory to wear a mask? Because, you know, at my spa, everybody has to wear a mask. When you enter the building, you have to wear a mask. And if you don't have one, we will provide one to you. That's just the way it is. So is it something that we can actually say, if you want to come into an in-person meeting, you need to wear a mask?
I think we probably could. I mean, I don't know what the library's policy is, but I think perhaps we could say we have immunocompromised members and we're just trying to protect everyone. You know, you're welcome to stay home and watch it on Zoom. Kelly, I haven't seen how that owl works and projects and gives something to go back and look at later. Has it been successful? Does it move to the speaker so that you can
It's a great
see the
deal.
speaker's
Moves to
face?
the speaker, the microphone moves to the speaker, everything. You know, I personally, if I go to a meeting, wouldn't want to wear a mask for 2 hours. I will sit on the other side of the table or away from everybody else if that's necessary, but you know.
I think I'm the only one here that's had the benefit maybe of in-person meetings, and I'm dying to go back to in-person meetings. But I get the convenience part. I mean, I get all the reasons for why we should Zoom, but I got to tell you, I really miss the camaraderie or whatever the right word is of the in-person meetings when we actually got to see each other, shake hands with each other. You know, it was just such a much better experience, but at the same time, it's not worth our health. So
Yes, if we're going to do it, we're going to have to do it quick. I'm sure I would bet a week's paycheck by September we'll be back.
Yes, we will. It's already happening.
Yeah.
I have multiple clients who work with, well, my husband works for the state of New Mexico Department of Health. He knows, you know, the epidemiology department and everything, and they're already saying we're headed to that way in the fall.
well,
Yeah,
I've had two vaccine or 2 boosters and I still wear a mask. So
Yeah. we're going to end up going back to the point of we're going to have to wear masks indoors again and stuff.
okay.
Just because the numbers are going back up.
Okay, so then I think our consensus here for the Southwest at this time is we're going to hang with the Zooms, and Mr. Barraza, Commander Barraza is going to find somebody that will fix his microphone so this old person can hear him and understand him. She doesn't want to miss anything.
Now that we're on the phone, let me grab a minute real quick and start my my hotspot real quick for my phone, because yesterday that's what I had to do. So hold on 1 second.
So you use your phone for your voice, and we saw you on your.
For the internet connection.
Okay.
Yeah, internet goes in and out. Like when I signed, originally when I was trying to sign on, my internet was down and then it went back up. Also, you know, like really, you know.
Yeah, I know, knock on wood. I've only
It's
had.
always something.
And all this time, I've only had one time when my internet connection, except for the time I froze when I was talking with you and Robbie, I've only had one time when it went down and I couldn't do anything. So.
Sorry,
Okay.
I had to put my laptop on the charger. So now my son is.
Okay.
Begins.
All right.
So I'm I'm on the hotspot now from the phone, and I'm not using my local Wi-Fi from the house. Does that seem to be better?
Absolutely.
Yes.
But you need to talk longer for us to be sure, because you fade after a while.
Yeah, sorry, like I said, I have this congestion in my chest, so some of my words are coming in a little shorter than anticipated, but I hope this works better. I'll keep this in mind for next meeting, that I'll use the hotspot on my phone rather than my home internet.
If
It
you
actually
don't
does. It sounds
mind,
better.
yeah, if you don't mind, that is a 100% improvement.
Okay,
You didn't fade out for me at all. I heard
Yeah.
and understood every word you said. So if you can do that for us, that would be great.
not
Okay.
a problem. That's an easy fix.
Okay, all right. So we will talk. We'll try to find a time when we can talk with you, Commander Barraza, about ongoing forward, what we want to do, what we want to be helping you with. So Andre and I will try to find a time that works for all of us to maybe sit down and chat or Zoom together or something like that, so we can think about what we're going to do going forward.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, and we'll say goodnight tonight, because I know everybody's tired and we've had long days and it's time to go to bed. Well, it's time for my brother to go to bed. So
Can I chat with you real quick, Wanda? before we
Certainly.
get off?
so you let
Okay.
Commander go?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Have a good
Thank
night.
you.
Thank you all
Thank you
much.
so
Thank
much.
very much.
Bye, Commander. Have a good evening. I hope you feel better.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Okay, what's up?
All right, honey. Okay, so David didn't show up and Mona didn't show up.
Right.
What are we gonna do?
Well, I don't know. And we've got, I was hoping Kelly would hang, but he left us.
Yeah, he bounced.
He bailed. He's like, I don't want to know about this. But
Yeah, yeah.
he put something in the chat to me about
I don't appreciate this. And I guess that's what I'm trying to say is I really do not appreciate both of them not showing up. This is our public meeting. They're supposed to be here. Two, David is supposed to be the secretary. And isn't he supposed to be taking notes and doing the minutes?
Well, technically, no. I mean, I put him on here because I was hoping that he would show up and be a part, okay? But technically, we didn't, it was just me and you, and we just voted ourselves, and I don't want to vote somebody else in without their knowledge and their agreement. I mean, that's what we need. We need somebody that agrees and understands.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I feel, yeah,
Well, I
feel a certain type of way. Mona, I really don't think is in it anymore. I just don't think she wants to actually depart.
I was hoping that she would try to come around, but she's, I feel so bad for the way she was brought on. I feel so bad for the way she was treated.
She was put in a very bad situation by Teresa, and I think that's what has pushed her away.
Yes, absolutely.
David, I really don't know what's going on with him. I don't know if he just has too much on his plate or anything, but come on. I mean, at least let us know.
I know, and like I told you, I'm done begging. I've begged him.
Right, I know, we should not have to beg anybody, so.
And you know how many times I reached out to you and asked you to reach out to him to find out if it was just me that he didn't want to talk.
And I've reached out and I typically don't ever hear a response.
Yeah, I can't find the note that that Kelly put in here for me, but apparently Teresa's not going down maybe without a fight.
I'm not surprised.
Yeah, so Martisa, you're not recording this part, are you? So
is she there?
I don't know. She's not answering. So anyway, he told me earlier today that he gave her my position, and I don't think it's changed. The last time she said she resigned, Assistant U.S. Attorney Elizabeth Martinez said she has to fill out a new form.
Right.
Oh, she hung up.
Yeah.
Oh, it is still recording.
Is it still recording?
And,
Oh, it is recording.
Yeah.
Wait.
And so they
well, I mean, if